everybody. This is Alicia, Liz, and Ant, and we are Servant Decoded. And we are here to give you our first take on season 4, episode 3 of Servant, called Seance. We want to give you guys something to tide you over until we get our deep dive up. So what did you guys think of the episode?
Not what I expected.
Is it ever, though?
No.
I thought it would be more horror movie, less comedy.
Yes, I agree.
This week?
But it was funny. There were some very funny moments.
Oh, for sure.
But I would agree. I expected it to be darker, a little bit darker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They went like real hard into this is goofy. Look at how goofy this is.
Yeah. Well, we want to give you guys the top 5 things that we felt were maybe the most important, or the stuff that made us go wow throughout the episode. Since we're talking about them, we'll start with the nurses and what we think. Because I think at the end of last week, we all maybe suspected that they were cult members, and obviously that was purposeful. Leanne suspects that they're cult members, but what do we believe now, you guys? What do you think? Are they culties?
I think they're just normal, perhaps maybe whimsical in their own way. I don't know to what extent. But they seem to be able to get things out of people.
I thought I heard the word fairies earlier when we were talking about.
They seem fairy-like. It's like, like they're just like easy to speak to, and they seem to like get Sean to like say real things, and
finally somebody got him to say some real things.
Everyone's saying like direct things now. It's very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm still holding out that they're going to reveal themselves to be evil.
Oh. I mean, you never know.
If they're not culties, I did think perhaps too. So obviously the episode's called Seance, and there was some alleged communicating with the dead. That my thought last week was actually that maybe they weren't cult members, but possibly this actually 2 of the spirits that occupy the house, if there are indeed spirits occupying there. I don't really think that now, but it was something that I had thought about initially last week.
Now that would have been cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I also think it's interesting, if we remember, Courtney was the one that helped Dorothy find them. Mm-hmm. So again, we have all these people that are kind of tied to, think about it, like Natalie, I think even Natalie was, but definitely Wanda and Roscoe, and, people that are tied to Frank. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they could belong to some group or be a part of that world in some way, if there is one to be revealed.
On the other hand, I can totally picture Courtney seeing their video and thinking, how fun, how charming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Their whole little introduction.
Yeah.
Also very whimsical.
Yes. Very. All right. So the next thing that we wanted to talk about was kind of connected to that, and that was the reveal of the new part of the house, which was super, super fun.
Lovely.
I thought it was going to be the roof from the opening.
You're right. I know, me too. I guess that's technically a room, but I did think that I thought the same thing. So this was cool.
And they've been elevating to the attic. You would think higher would be but yeah, like you can only do so much outside, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like the backyard wasn't technically another part of the house, but that was what we got last season. So I thought roof, yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we got this weird time capsule 70s terrible dump.
Did you like
it? I love it.
Yeah. What was your favorite part of it?
I don't know. It was like very like homely decorated, like very like lived in, which I thought was interesting.
Mm-hmm. It was homely. It was absolutely homely.
That's what I mean. Like a lot of like browns and greens.
You mean homey?
Funny though that you would say it looks so lived in, because I agree with you, but then nobody lives there, right?
No, yeah. I know. And apparently like it's just been there, but like very clean and very like set up, and I don't know.
Agreed. I also, my favorite part of it was kind of like that weird railing.
Mm-hmm. And like a blanket on the wall. I thought that was kind of nice.
It's interesting that it felt like such a time capsule of a space.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know if that's tied to just I don't know. I think it's still up for possibility that they're not alive. And there's been clues throughout the series that kind of date them, like even calling Leanne's staff, which we talked about way early on, but lots of things that don't seem traditionally modern. The baby monitor,
the use of the VHS recorder or the Betamax.
Yeah.
I wondered if the room might have been kept as a shrine to mom, to Dorothy and mom.
Perhaps it's an interesting.
Who knows?
Yeah. Next, let's talk briefly about the seance. I know there was a lot that sort of went into it, but it was also kind of hokey, which I guess was the point. What did you guys think about the seance?
Kind of what you said, kind of the same things. Like, everything kind of touched on something that may have been true, but also like you could kind of suss out things just kind of saying words. Most people know somebody who has a B name, or like.
I did find it interesting when they said that, Dorothy, set your intentions, the spirits are listening. And she asks for their help and guidance.
And then at the end, it seemed like we got a real prophecy or a real vision.
Julian also seemed to be pretty touched by the implication there.
Yeah, wow.
It's time for you to forgive yourself. I mean, I think the assumption could be made, or maybe should be made, that the mother was meaning Jericho, or that's how they did it. So
that's how I also took it.
Right.
Not going.
And he knew that they weren't going to know that, so it did make him question it a little bit more.
You could see on his face, it was like, wow, yeah.
Right. And then time to close the door to the other side, I thought was definitely a bit, what does that mean, right? Does that mean that Jericho goes away? Who's on the other side in this situation? Or all of them?
She may have just meant in that instance. That's like something people say to close the situation.
But it was interesting that it came on the heels of the baby's crying. Oh, the wailing, the wailing.
Yeah, and she was still in the middle of her question.
And he's wondering why. Did she say he's wondering why no one's
helping me?
Helping him, right? Yeah. That's a dark take on
heaven.
I mean, it's just no. I mean, I guess being in the moment of like.
I mean, for such a biblical show, you would think there'd be a definitive,
Well, I think she was like drawing from the moment he died. I guess like drawing the memory of that energy. Maybe
that's what I was thinking too, Aunt.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That like I thought about him like crying in the car.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Crying for mom in the car, and mom never comes.
Oh God.
I know, it's dark. It's sad.
And then we have some light points. So there's that.
Yeah. And so she describes her vision of the house rotting, but she also mentions that there's a dark shadow that is cold and evil that's tethered and attached to the family, which to me is really huge. And it plays on a theory about what the house is, and the house as a character, obviously. And it leads us into the next thing that we wanted to talk about, which is the darkness itself. So did Leanne bring the darkness with her, or is the darkness already there and it's infected Leanne because she is more susceptible due to her supernatural powers or her psychic powers? So we've been discussing that. What do you guys each think?
I'm hopeful that it's something that even if Leanne brought it with her, that it's like a separate entity that she can choose to refuse, and then they can get rid of.
Mm-hmm.
If we're going off like the rest of things, like how she's drawing things in her book, like it's probably either her herself making these things happen, as we come to assume.
Mm-hmm.
That's how kind of I would take it. Why it presents itself that way as like I guess maybe that's the darkness in her. If we're gonna like go for metaphors.
Yeah.
So I think she just had like a vision of, maybe they both had that same dream of like the outcome of letting this continue. Or I don't really know like what that would be the outcome of, because no one's really trying to, things are just kind of happening now.
Yeah.
Risha, what was your theory?
Yeah, like what did you think?
I really think that, I think that the house it's crazy, guys. I think the house is potentially maybe a portal of some kind, and that there are spirits that are present in there. And so when she talks about like closing the veil, closing the door, it's because there's been so much death there and so much sadness, and those spirits are just kind of wandering around or wreaking havoc, but that there is a dark demonic entity that is in the house, and that's what's causing all of the miscarriages, the deaths, the darkness, the negativity, all of those things, that it just kind of slowly rots the people from the inside, as well as that actual physical house itself.
It corrupts.
Right, it corrupts, yeah. And in different ways, like we see it corrupt everybody in a different way based on whatever it is about them that it is. You know, we all have the capacity of good and evil. We all I guess is not the theory, but the concept,
like the thesis, right? Of the
yeah, exactly. And we have a choice to choose, you know, light, good, or dark and evil. And but that it, you know, perhaps this demonic entity is pulling at all of them if they are alive, or killing them one by one. And we just, you know, Julian's died, Jericho's died, the dog died, that dog died, you know, so people are dying and they're getting resurrected, or they're not realizing that they're dead, or, you know, some combination of the two. But I think that's possibly what's going on. And I don't know. The last big thing that we wanted to mention was just on the heels of that, when we see the vision or the dream that Leanne has. And I think y'all mentioned that, yeah, it was hard to tell. Was it Leanne's dream or was it Dorothy's? I you know, was it a vision? Was it a dream? But I was excited to see that we are going to call it the smoke monster, because we also love Lost. But that's really what it reminded me of, was a smoke monster. And I know
very similar graphics, yeah, but it was like a man.
It was, yeah. You did see a figure, you know, so perhaps it is. That's why I said, you know, talked about it being the portal over hell. So perhaps that is indeed not just a demonic entity. Perhaps it's, you know, the devil itself. I don't know. But yeah, seeing all that destruction. And then I realized that it was what Leanne had drawn in her notebook. Maybe not the exact tableau, but that smoke monster was that weird drawing of the blob looking thing that we couldn't really tell what it was.
Yeah, that goes to the painting of Leanne.
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
Painting about the woman and the dragon representing evil. That's what I thought of. But also it looked like a tall man. And I thought about the, you know, Roscoe under hypnosis, the hook.
Right. Yeah.
Or the tall man that we saw approaching the car.
In Pigeon.
But if you watch that part of the Pigeon episode back, he like he walks with it in an odd way.
Right, he does.
And
a lot of them moved in strange ways, I thought.
Right, but this the tall man looked like he was walking on stilts or something.
Right.
And I kind of got that same impression from the dark figure in this, you know, this episode. But yeah, the tail, it's like we got a piece of the final picture from Leanne's journal.
Yeah. And also, you know, in tying it to Lost and like what is potentially going on, I think, Aunt, you mentioned when we were talking immediately after watching it, like, why is it, if that demonic entity or whatever is the house or within the house, like, why then are we seeing it stretch beyond into greater Philadelphia, right?
Right. I still think it's coming from Leanne. Like, I don't understand why. I mean, I guess, you know, anything is possible. And even the news that had everybody filling the hospitals. Like, what's that? Like, they didn't really clarify that, but like something is probably affecting the greater area.
Yeah. You're
right. Yeah, increasing bills. It's like the apocalypse.
Yeah, the streets are falling apart, bed bugs.
But I thought about Lost and the when we saw the Across the Sea episode. For Lost fans out there, it really went into the mythology of like the island and the smoke monster and what the smoke monster was. And, you know, we know that it was Jacob and the man in black were brothers, and the man in black killed their mother, and then Jacob killed him, and then at that point he turned into the smoke monster. But the explanation was that Jacob's purpose was to contain the darkness on the island, and that's why he needed the other Losties, was to find a new successor, because if the darkness wasn't contained and managed to escape the island because it wasn't contained, then it would indeed affect the rest of the world, and it would be extremely bad. And so I did think that perhaps that was maybe a similar theme or idea that we might be looking at here, in terms of the darkness within the home.
Yeah.
Well, any other thoughts quickly before we wrap for today?
I think that pretty much covers it, actually.
Yeah.
Got all the little weirdnesses out. I'm sure we'll have more to say later.
Well, guys, thank you for listening or watching. And we hope you enjoy our little quick hit about what we thought about this episode. And we'll be back very, very soon with our deep dive into this episode.
Yes, indeed.
So we're excited about that too. We're going to look at everything on a more detailed level like we usually do. So thank you for supporting us. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.